So I'm going to read a statement of what we have you here for, and then we're going to open it, and then I'm going to turn it over to General Desmond, and then we'll take a few questions at the end. What questions we can answer, okay? So the Maryville Police Department is pleased to announce a breakthrough in a decades-old homicide case. After more than 39 years, an arrest has been made in the January 4th, 1985 homicide of Billy Wayne Herron. The suspect is a person named Roger Udy, 62 years old, who's currently serving time in a prison in Tennessee for an unrelated homicide that occurred in Monroe County, Tennessee in 1987. He has been charged with the murder of Billy Wayne Herron. This development marks a significant step towards justice for the victim and his family. Excuse me. Udy was 22 years old at the time he committed this homicide in Maryville. Billy Wayne Herron was found deceased at his residence, Lot 27, Shady Acres Trailer Park in Maryville, Tennessee. Mr. Herron suffered multiple stab wounds and blunt force trauma to his head. Despite initial efforts to solve this case, it remained unsolved for nearly four decades. Thanks to the tenacity of our investigating team and new investigation techniques, the case was reopened with new and fresh vigor and determination. Billy Wayne Herron, who grew up in Blount County, Tennessee, was 11 of 15 children in his family. Mr. Herron was in the United States Navy, where he suffered a injury that made him disabled and unable to return to the workforce. I want to extend our deepest gratitude to Loudoun County Sheriff Jimmy Davis and the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, whose invaluable assistance and collaboration were most helpful in solving this murder. After years of seeking answers, we are one step closer to justice. Our department remains committed to investigating unsolved cases and bringing closure to the families. Just this past November, we made an arrest of Michael Fine for a 1977 double homicide of his parents, Maynard and Helen Fine, that occurred on Everett Avenue in Maryville, Tennessee. These arrests reflect our dedication to the mission of never forgetting those who have suffered from an injustice, no matter how much time has passed. Maryville Police Department would also like to acknowledge all who contributed to the resolve, particularly Blount County District Attorney General Ryan Desmond and Deputy District Attorney General Tracy Jenkins for their invaluable partnership, experience, and expertise. And lastly, I would like to recognize Detective Art King, who's worked tirelessly on this case for months. So having said that, that is just kind of a snapshot of what we're here for today. So at this time, I'd like to introduce to you Ryan Desmond, our District Attorney General.
Thank you very much, Chief. Good morning, everybody. It's an exciting day to be here. As Chief said, this is the second cold case homicide we are able to bring to a conclusion today. There's actually one other party I want to thank, and that is you all, the local media. As you're going to learn when this case comes to court, it was actually a story run in the last year in our local press about this unsolved homicide that led to the development of evidence that otherwise we would not have, and otherwise we would not have been able to charge this case with. So it was your willingness to report on this unsolved murder in the last year that actually led to a break in this case. So thank you, the media, for still having an interest in your community and the families of victims. And you know, we deal with victims of crimes a lot in our jobs, and it's tough. These are people who have gone through terrible ordeals. But when you put yourself in the shoes of Mr. Herron's family, as Chief said, he had 14 brothers and sisters. And a lot of those brothers and sisters are still around today. And we've met with several of those siblings leading up to today's announcement. And imagine losing a loved one, someone you grew up with, someone you call a brother, and not knowing what happened, not just for days, not just for weeks, not just for months, but for years, for decades. These individuals were provided with no answers as to what had caused their loved one's death. They were given no closure. They were given no justice. They were left to wonder for decades and decades. And now, because of the hard work of the Maryville Police Department, we are able to bring those people answers. They are able to have some closure. They are able to know that the memory of their brother was not forgotten. Yes, it took a lengthy amount of time, but he was never forgotten. not by the investigating officers and not by the community in Blount County, not by the city of Maryville. We remembered Billy Wayne Herron. That case file was always there, always being worked on. So the Maryville Police Department, under the leadership of Chief Crisp, has to be commended for their dedication and their perseverance in seeing this individual is brought to justice. And I know that I can speak on behalf of the Herron family when I tell them thank you. That this case is finally going to be brought to court and go through our criminal justice system. And I think this is a good reflection on our criminal justice system. It's not always expedient. Sometimes it's got its trips and its traps, but we're there, and it's working, and it's going to continue to work, and I think that's very exciting. Mr. Udi was indicted by the Blount County Grand Jury on Monday, this past Monday. He was transported yesterday from the Trousdale Correctional Facility where he was incarcerated. He is now in the Blount County Justice Center, having been here and served with his indictment, and he will appear in court this coming Friday in front of Judge Harrington in Circuit Court here in Blount County. He will have his initial appearance on these charges. As you all know, as a prosecutor, I have ethical obligations that I can't go into too much detail as to the specifics and facts of the case, but I am happy to answer any questions regarding the law or anything that maybe isn't specific as to the facts of the case. And at this time, unless, Chief, you have anything else?
Just one last remark before we open it up to the questions. I just want to echo what General Desmond said about the family, the Herron family. They have visited my office numerous times over the years and have inquired about this case. And I know as we really got deep into this case, when I met with them, I told them, I said, look, it's coming. Just a couple of months away, we're going to dig back in and dive into this case. We took all our evidence we had. We sent it off to the FBI laboratory for some forensic examinations, and then, of course, as the general alluded to, too, the media played a large role. It brought somebody to us that helped us spark another avenue of pursuit of this individual for his crime that he committed here. So again, the Herron family, I just want them to know that we are very pleased to bring some resolve and closure to them in regards to their brother, because I know that's weighed heavy on their hearts and minds because they've shared that with me. And again, it was really refreshing, wasn't it, General, to meet with the family and to tell them that we're going to be presenting this case to a Blount County grand jury, and subsequently they did return an indictment for him. So now, having said that, we'll open up for questions.
Do you have any information on the other homicide that this man was already incarcerated for?
Yeah, he was convicted of killing an individual named Roy Stevens out of Monroe County. I think he was convicted there. The murder happened in 1988, I believe, 87, and he was convicted a few years thereafter. Without going into too much detail, I think you'll learn that homicide is related to our homicide, that there is a nexus and a connection between the two of them. That's all I really want to say regarding that specific. But yes, he is currently serving a life sentence. I think he would be parole eligible because based on the law in the 1980s, a life sentence, you were parole eligible after a certain period of time. So his parole eligibility is coming up maybe in the next 8 or 9 years, I believe.
2035.
2035, so 11 years from now. So, but yes, that is the information. I think you can probably get more detail from the Monroe County authorities, but he was convicted of killing a gentleman named Roy Stevens in the 80s.
Did the victim and suspect know each other at all? Can you speak on that?
They were acquaintances. They had met before. They were just acquaintances. They were not friends, but they were acquaintances.
Was this suspect on your radar 39 years ago?
He was a person of interest during the course of the investigation. His name was brought forth at that time. He was looked at, and he, along with other people, as any investigation such as that, there's a number of people that you have to look at. So he definitely was one that we were, as we were sending things back in the lab, we had him in our eyesights.
When Channel 10 covered this cold case earlier this year, I remember reading old articles from the Daily Times. It was a really bloody murder scene. How was he killed?
He was stabbed probably in excess of 70 times, and then so the autopsy report said he died as a result of multiple stab wounds and blunt force trauma to his head, which was done with an instrument that was there at the house.
How did the family react when you told them that you finally arrested someone? Somebody's finally gonna get.
Well, they were really eluded. In fact, even up until the point it was so ironic. The day we were going to call them to schedule a meeting with them, his sister had called and wanted an update on the case, and we said, well, good, your timing is perfect. We'd like to meet with you and your family. And we met with two sisters and a brother. Now, unfortunately, one of the first times we met, well, not one of the first times, but one of the many times that we met with the family, there was four sisters there, and unfortunately, one of them had passed away since then, so she was not a part of this last conversation we had.
And how long since an update to his story was put out did you all hear from somebody? Did it take a while? Was it pretty quickly after it was out there in the news?
Probably within 6 to 8 weeks.
How was that for you all?
Pardon?
How was that for you all to get a tip after so many years?
Well, it's refreshing. I actually was on vacation when that tip come in, and a neighboring law enforcement in Loudoun County, when I recognized Sheriff Jimmy Davis, he had called me and shared some information with me. I summoned a couple of our detectives to go to Loudoun County.
And you mentioned that tip being crucial for you guys. Once you got that, if you can share, were there any other aspects, new technology or anything that helped you lead to that arrest?
They was, but we really can't, say what that was.
He's in the Blount County Jail right now?
He
Will
is.
he be in there pending trial or pending a plea?
I would anticipate, he's also, I guess he's in joint custody. He would still be a TDOC prisoner, but I would anticipate he will likely remain in the Blount County facility while his case is pending. It is possible that he could be transported back to TDOC if there's a lengthy period of time, between then and a trial date, but I think most likely he'll remain here.
So we could request a mugshot through the Blount County Sheriff's Office?
There is a mugshot, and I believe the Maryville Police Department has one available.
If you will, that's Stephanie Perkins, administrative assistant. If you will see her before you leave, give her your email address. She will email you a copy or a picture of Roger.
You mentioned that he's going to be in court this Friday with Judge Harrington. Is that going to be on the 9 a.m. or the 1:30 a.m.?
That would be at 9.
There's only one more unsolved murder case left in Maryville, correct? Helen Mills. Have
Yes.
you all heard anything else in that case recently?
I can just tell you that we're still actively working that case. Again, we have some evidence that we're having re-examined again, hoping that some new technology will help push that forward, but it's certainly on our radar.
I can promise you, Chief's not cutting us any slack. Just because we get one or two done doesn't mean. Sometimes I'm like, Chief, can you give me a few weeks or a month or two here to get through a little work? But no, I promise you, they're still working on the remaining unsolved homicide.
Chief Chris mentioned that the suspect in this was originally a person of interest that you looked at 39 years ago.
Yes.
Can you speak to what led to him not being somebody that was arrested or charged in this?
Just wasn't any evidence. Obviously you have to have the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt to be able to present it to the general for a successful prosecution. And you have one shot at it. You lose that, then there's a double jeopardy. And I'm not, this could be obviously about more so than I on double jeopardy, but you don't want to, lose sight of that. But we never had enough evidence at that time. It took 39 years for us to get that.
Unfortunately, a lot of times it's not uncommon for us to have a pretty good idea who perpetrated or committed a crime. But when you look at the high standard of proof that the criminal justice system requires, and I don't know exactly what the evaluation the district attorney at that time went through, but I can tell you that the evidence we have gained in the last few months is very, very critical to our ability to bring charges forward now. And they obviously would not have had that evidence 20, 25 years ago.
What was he formally indicted for?
He was indicted for first-degree murder. And luckily, in the state of Tennessee, there's no statute of limitations on first-degree murder, so it's an appropriate charge based on the facts, the evidence, and the law.
How is the DA's office feeling about this upcoming case?
This one here? Well, I mean, I am lucky, very fortunate, and this is what I love about my job, candidly. I don't measure success on winning and losing. That's not how we measure. We measure our success on doing the right thing, seeking justice. Our first priority is always going to be to, is this the just outcome? Do we have the sufficient evidence to meet the elements of the crime and prove our case and bring forward a prosecution? If we don't, then the just thing to do is to not go forward. If we do have that evidence, then it's not my job necessarily to convict. It's my job to put the evidence before a jury or before a judge to prove a case that I believe in beyond a reasonable doubt. And what happens from there is, in the hands of the criminal justice system and the law. So I feel good, not for any reason other than I know we're doing the right thing. And at the end of the day, that's all I really tasked my office with doing.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, well, I would just like to say one last thing. In addition to the people I recognized earlier, I want to recognize all the members of the Maryville Police Department, not only our investigative team, from our patrol guys to the people that work the front desk. It's it takes a village to make things work, and I'm very proud and honored to have a great staff that just doesn't give up. And again, I know that Detective King, before going on vacation, he already had scheduled, was leaving, just a couple of days, and he canceled that a while back to pursue another real strong lead we had. So again, we thank you for being here. Again, I want to thank the District Attorney General's office, General Desmond and General Jenkins. They're always supportive of us. They demand a lot of work from us, and we get that. And we keep pushing. We'll go and he or she will need this and that, and we just keep pushing that wagon up the hill. But I want to just really tell you my hat's off that their willingness to look at evidence and present it to the proper system, the grand jury, and now the court. So thank you again, gentlemen. Thank you again, guys, for being here. And that finishes our press conference.
For spelling purposes.
Yes, here you go. Anybody, here's a Spanish thing. Red.